Welcome to the Through the Lens of Learning podcast. If we haven't met, hello, I'm your host, Dr. Tracy Schroyer. I'll give you 2 words that summarize me to a T: lifelong learner. Join me as I share a bit about my own journey of curiosity, learning, and wonder. You'll also get to hear from some phenomenal individuals on what they're curious about learning and what they have to share too. Are you itching with excitement yet? I am, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Tracy Schroyer, and I am the founder and the CEO of Upskill University, otherwise known as Upskill U. And welcome to the Lens of Learning, or TTLL. This is my new podcast/vodcast, and very little editing. I don't have time for that. Don't have much time at all for that. So we're putting it out there as it is. It's real and authentic. And what I am looking to do with the Through the Lens of Learning podcast is it's really twofold. One is to be able to share the learning journeys of individuals, informal and formal learning, for wherever they want to start and where they are, things that they have down the road that they're planning to do or that they're passionate about and curious about. And the other side of Through the Lens of Learning is to look and take a peek into areas that people are passionate about, the topics that they dig into and that they want to learn more about, and that they want to share and help others to learn more about. So all about learning. And if you know me, you know that I am a lifelong learner at heart. Formal and informal, I've shown that through and through. If you don't know me, welcome, and you'll learn a lot more about me throughout this podcast. If you have not already, please make sure that you are part of the Upskill U group. It's on Facebook. There's a group. If you're not on Facebook, totally fine. We also have a community. If you go to Upskill, Upskill, university.com, you can click to be added to the email list, and we will get you access to, and there's access on the website if you click on the Learning Hub to join the virtual community, which is outside of Facebook, outside of social media platforms. It's in a community called Mighty Networks. There's also an app, and you can get notifications right on your phone if you'd like that. There is no algorithm in Mighty Networks, which is the most amazing thing ever. What you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. So I am super, super excited to be launching this podcast. I've been told for at least 6 to 9 months now, like, hey, have you thought about doing a podcast? Like, that would be a great idea. So I needed to kind of figure out what the direction was, what that was going to look like. And here I am with this podcast. So on this episode, I want to walk you through a bit about my story and my learning journey, where I've come from, where I've been, and where I am today, and some of the things that I have in my sights for the future. So if I start back, I don't want to go too far back, but I can tell you when I was younger, one of the things that I always wanted to be when I grew up was a teacher. And the further I got into elementary school, into middle school, even into high school, I wanted to be a high school English teacher. And there was something about the English teachers that we had, and I'm going to call out Miss Seidner, Miss Ball. I know there's probably a couple others, maybe I'm missing some, but just reading the books, talking about the topics and the concepts, and being able to write. I loved being able to write, whether it was that creative free flow or you had a book report. I was that nerdy person who just loved to write. But on the other hand, I was one of those people too that would prefer to write a paper rather than take a test. So when you think about the journey and where I've gone, and if you do not know, I did go through and complete my PhD. So I wrote a dissertation instead of having to take any kind of long test to get through a degree program. So I always wanted to be a high school teacher. When I got more into high school, I thought, you know what? I think I want to be an English high school teacher. So I did have to start working even before. So middle of high school, I started to work. I worked at Donato's Pizza, which in Columbus, Ohio, had just opened up recently. It wasn't too many years that had even been open, and I started working there. It was across from my middle school. So I worked at Donato's. I did really well there. I ended up working there for about 2.5 years in high school. And once I was done with high school, I'm like, what am I going to do now? There was the expectation that you go to college, but there really wasn't the money for it. So and my brother ended up going into the military. So I thought, you know what? I do want to go to college, but I also need to work. And I felt like I knew I was going to need to work in some capacity as I went through and got my education. So once I graduated from high school, before I graduated from high school, I worked at Lazarus, which is now Macy's, the department store, and I worked in their teens, the juniors clothing area, which is so not me. For any of you who know me, that is kind of a joke. It's just not me. I worked there. I did really fine. I can run a register. I'm not a salesy person at all, and it was totally clear from that job. I'd rather go clean the fitting rooms and fold this stuff and put it away. But when I left that job, I was actually 2 weeks out of high school, had just graduated, and my mom and my aunt worked at Discover Financial Services. And at that time, and this is your Discover card, the company behind the Discover card, the company was we had several centers within Ohio. There was a center, a call center, and they had several other pieces, operational pieces above the Sears at Westland Mall on the west side in Columbus, Ohio. They also had a location above the Sears in Eastland Mall on the east side of Ohio, or east side of Columbus. And then we had some collections and some other aspects of the business within Mill Run and Hilliard, Ohio. And then, of course, there was places elsewhere. The company came up in the mid 80s and launched Discover Card. They ended up through the years acquiring Diners Club, which is more the international footprint, and also Pulse, which is a debit ATM network. So my mom and my aunt had recommended that I get a job there and that it would be good. So I started on June 27th of 1996. And so this year is actually going to mark 26 years that I've been with Discover. That's not the only job I've had in 26 years. And every 3 to 4 years, I have gone to a different role or a different department, had new challenges. So it doesn't feel like I've been with the same company for that long. But what I did also, and I want to talk more about my formal learning journey, is I started to work at Discover in June of 96. In the fall of 96, I knew that there was the expectation to go to college. And so I enrolled at Ohio Dominican University. I had looked at a couple, not really a whole bunch, of colleges and universities. I actually, my senior year, I got accepted to Morehead State University. If any of you have ever heard of Morehead State, it's in Kentucky. And the plan was me, a friend, and a couple of girls we had met. I don't know if it was a tour or something, that we were all going to room together at Morehead State University. So I was accepted to Morehead State University. And I think my sister even came across my essay for the application, like just recently. So I was accepted, but I realized that I didn't have the money to go to school. Like I had to take out student loans, and I was going to have to work my ass off to even be able to go to class. So I realized that wasn't realistic for me. And so I had to take a step back. I did go apply, got the job at Discover. And so it was in the fall of 96 that I started at Ohio Dominican University. What's interesting is I started out in computer science. I was really, really interested in that technical aspect. And I'm going to keep saying this probably for those of you who know me, that makes sense. But in my first, I think we were on semesters when we started there. It was fall of 96. The first semester I took, I think it was Intro to Pascal. So anybody who's in any kind of computer science now, this probably dates me way, way back because I don't even hear about Pascal anymore. So one of the projects that we had to do, we had to work in a group project, which I know if you're a student, they suck. We had to work on a group project. It was really duets. The other lady was working full time. She wasn't so interested and intrigued in the group project. I got frustrated and mad because I couldn't figure it out. I remember we had to make like a calendar for the year and figure out the programming so it would work on a leap year, and it was a little bit crazy. So what I ended up doing is After that first semester, I realized that maybe computer science wasn't for me. And that it wasn't going to be an easy ride if so. And I think I ended up getting a C in that class, Intro to Pascal. And I thought, you know what? I need to rethink what I'm doing here. And Ohio Dominican University is a great university, but it is very expensive. So I thought I need to get my shit together and figure out, because I don't have the time or the money to mess around. And I didn't have anybody else paying for it. It was these loans that I was taking out and trying to work and live. So in the winter of 97, I enrolled at Columbus State Community College, and I was there for a little while. I think I went there. I would have to look. I'm pretty sure I went there. So I bounced between Columbus State Community College for a little bit and Ohio State University. Excuse me. So I did go to Ohio State at some point in 97. I was there for, I think it was 2, and they bounced from semesters to quarters too. So it was either 2 semesters or 2 quarters. And I had, Columbus State was good. The classes were good. They were convenient for me to work and go to school. I felt like there was something more. So again, I did go at some point to Ohio State for at least 2 semesters in 97, and I had a freaking blast. I had so much fun, and you're going to be surprised by this. I actually got a letter from the university that said, if you don't improve your grade point average, you are no longer going to be able to attend the university. I think it was like a 1 point something. So I was having a little bit too much fun, a little bit too much partying with my friends and everything like that. Still holding down a job. I typically in that time frame I was working. It was called flex time, and it was typically like 35 hours a week, 32 to 35 hours a week at Discover. So I was having a lot of fun, and I was like, another time hit me. I need to get my shit together. I need to, I'm not going down the right path. I'm not any closer to getting a degree of any kind. So from there, it ended up going into 98. I'm confused by all the dates. So I can tell you in 98, Tony, my husband, and I had been together for about a year in April of 98. And we were planning to get married in 98. And we ended up not getting married when we were going to get married. We ended up starting to plan a wedding for November of 98, and then that all changed. We had some differences of opinion on religion and family, and we just wanted to do what we wanted to do, and it was about us and not everybody else. So we kind of said, we went to Myrtle Beach, got married on the beach, just the 2 of us, and neither of us really care for the beach, which is really funny. So back to the education, the formal education part. So it was in 98, 99, 2000. I did end up, I was going back and forth between Columbus State. I did go back to Ohio State even after I got kicked out before, or not kicked out, almost kicked out. Went back to Ohio State. In Ohio State, I was actually able to register for their Bachelor's of English program. And I was still working in a way that I could go to my classes. So I was actually taking one class during the day and then come back to work. But the class that I was taking during the day was what people call a weed out class. And for those of you who don't know what that is, a weed out class is a class that is, I think it's sometimes pretty hard. And it's to see if you can make it or not in that major. I struggled because at that time I was working full time. I had gone from flex to full time to be able to afford different things. And I wasn't making the cut. So I ended up leaving Ohio State again. At some point, I went to Otterbein. It was Otterbein College at the time. It's Otterbein University now, and this was in Westerville, Ohio. And at Otterbein, I actually was at Otterbein for 2.5 years before I wrapped up and got my undergrad degree. So I got my undergrad degree from Otterbein in 2004. So it was, yeah, so 2004. The nice thing about Otterbein, I searched all over to see if I could find either virtual or in-person universities, colleges that offered a bachelor's degree in English, because I wanted to study English because I wanted to be an English high school teacher. So Otterbein had that program. There were 2 classes that, in order to take, and the timing to take them, I would have to go during the day. I had amazing leaders at Discover, and I was able to go and take those classes during the day. I think there were 2 days a week for 2 different semesters, and just go from like 1 to 2, 1 to 2:30 or something like that. Go take it and make up the time at work. So in 2004, I graduated with my undergrad degree from Otterbein College, now university. It took me 8 years. So I started school in the fall of 96, and it was 2004 when I graduated. So I think I only took 2 semesters or quarters off in that 8 years, 2 to 3 maybe at the most. So I was going to school most of the time, and I had a whole lot of debt, especially Otterbein, I think was even more expensive than Ohio Dominican was. But I had loans. I could worry about that later, which is a whole nother podcast, I guess. So in 2004, I was working at Discover still. I had been there for 8 years. I was doing really well. And I thought to myself, okay, if I want to be a high school English teacher, I probably have to get maybe a master's in education, something like that. Or go in and get a teaching certification, like do some additional classes, something like that. But then I started looking up the salary for high school teachers. I had well surpassed the salary for high school teachers in my role. And I thought, I want to do it, but I don't know if I want to do it that bad. So I decided that that wasn't what I was going to pursue. And I didn't really know what I was going to pursue, but I really liked what I was doing at Discover, the different opportunities I had and challenges I had. So I ended up enrolling in the Masters of Business Administration program at Ohio Dominican University. And that was I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was an adult education program, and it was 1 night a week for 18 months. So I enrolled in that. I started that program. It was only a couple months off before I started into that program. I really liked the program. One of the reasons I really like the program is, for the most part, I don't remember having a lot of tests. And remember, if we go back to the beginning of this episode, I don't really like tests. I'd rather write you a paper, give you a project, do a presentation, whatever. Just don't make me take a test. So I don't remember doing a lot of those. We did a lot of group work, which we had some issues. You're always going to have issues if you have to do group work in any setting. But in the workplace, you also have to do group work, and you don't have a choice of who your partner is when you have different people on the team or in other teams, cross-functional teams you got to work with. So I completed my MBA from Ohio Dominican in 2006. The really cool thing about that is my sister was wrapping up her bachelor's and that at the same time, and we were able to attend and participate in the same graduation ceremony, which I kind of feel bad because I feel like it stole a little bit of her thunder of getting her bachelor's. She actually got it a lot quicker than I got mine. But it was cool to be able to do that together and bring our family together to celebrate that. So from there, I had this crazy and wild idea that I wanted to still teach. And I tried and tried and tried to get into human resources, the learning and development, and even trying to get my foot in the door would have to take a huge back step. And I wasn't making way there. So I did get a lot more involved in the learning and development industry, but that wasn't until a lot later. I had this wild and crazy idea to go look at PhD programs. And thinking back, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, I don't even know why I did it. I started getting brochures in the mail, getting phone calls from registrar's offices, and talking to alumni of different schools and trying to understand how they develop this curriculum and what the heck is this acronym and that acronym and what the heck am I doing? And you know what? I enrolled. I enrolled in 2006 in the fall. I think it was the fall. I started my PhD program. I learned that there is a difference between a PhD and a DBA. A DBA is a doctor. Oh, I can't remember what it is. It's a doctorate. There's a difference between a doctorate and a PhD. A PhD is more research focused. Um, so I got on the PhD track, and even though I tell so many people, don't do it if you're thinking about getting a PhD, I think that I'm not going to say I think, I know that the journey to get my PhD is a big reason I am who I am today. And I'm able to do a lot of the things I do today because of that program and the struggles that I went through and the successes that I had and the people that I met that started to bring me out of my shell for a lot of it. I was a very, very shy person. I don't feel like I'm so much anymore. But the other thing too is I'm introverted. Remember, introverted and shy are not the same thing. But I was introverted, so I got exhausted from being around and engaging with people. I had 3 years of coursework. So I had to complete different course requirements. I was in the organization and management track in their business program, and I was specializing in leadership. So that meant a specialization to me is very similar to a minor. You're taking maybe 4 or 5 classes related to your specialization, and your dissertation is focused on something related to that typically. So I enrolled. It took me 3 years to go through the coursework, and I love the coursework. I loved it. So all through school up until this point, up until I started my PhD, I was an okay student. In high school, there was the occasional C. I think I even got a D in biology, which that's another story. But I was probably more like some A's, mostly B's. I had to study. I wasn't one that I couldn't, just not do the studying and just automatically do something. And so I struggled. I remember in my undergrad when I was at Otterbein College at the time, that there was one summer that I had taken an abbreviated split. I split I think it was like 6 weeks maybe, which is insane to me to think about this, the crazy things that we've done before. But I took I'm trying to think of what it was called. Financial accounting. I took financial accounting, a 6-week course, and Shakespeare. So if we think about left brain, right brain, financial accounting and Shakespeare, that's the only time in my undergrad degree that I ever got a 4.0 for a semester, for a quarter, for whatever. And I think it's because it leveraged both sides of my brain there, which is interesting too, to think about computer science, technical, what I'm interested in, and also that creative aspect of English. And my English undergrad was literary studies. It was not telling you how your grammar was or was not, even though I'm really good at that too sometimes, which my husband doesn't like. So I started my classes for my PhD program. I kept having to tell myself, it doesn't matter what your grade is. It doesn't matter what your grade is. You're learning, you're passing your classes, things like that, which I feel like I've had to do all through school. I've struggled to not kind of self-judge on those kinds of things. So I was so passionate about the classes that we were taking in my PhD program, and I got a 4.0. I got a freaking 4.0. There was one class where I might have got like an A minus or something like that, but I was on fire. Like, that was the passion in my belly, like the business, the management, the leadership stuff, and I was so excited. I knew before I went into my PhD program, one of the recommendations that I got from an alumni from the school was to tell me that before you get into the program, I highly recommend that you figure out what topic you want to focus on for your dissertation, because you got to be really passionate about it. And I truly, truly believe this still. You have to be really passionate about it or you're going to check out. It's going to be a long process, especially if you're somebody who has to work full time to be able to go to school and to do that. So I knew when I got into my PhD program, there had been some things at work, and there was a lot of different companies really had downsizing going on, layoffs going on. And one of the things that I did in my master's program is I interviewed a vice president and asked some questions about it. And what I realized that I didn't know before in that master's, what I had done for that project, was the leaders that have to go through downsizing aren't always, let me just say, they're not always assholes. They're not always greedy bastards. And I think that's the perception. That was the perception that I had. Like, they didn't care, and it was like, oh, it's all about the bottom line. It's not about the people. That's so not the case. So when I went through that master's program and that assignment, and I realized that, and I began to see that and learn that, I was like, this is what I want to study. And then when I go through my coursework, and then I did my exams. I feel like I passed those by the skin of my teeth. And my mentor for my exam said, you passed. Don't worry about how close it was. You passed. Like, go on to the next thing. But that kind of hung with me, and I had to let that go and to be able to move on. And that probably hurt me a little bit as I moved on. So it did take me a little over 3 years to finish writing my dissertation. And I'll tell you about one of the problems I had with it, besides working full time and being married and living in different places. We were moving from apartment to apartment, finding out about different places around town before we ended up moving into the house that we had, and all that kind of stuff. So life happened. I was working, life happened, and then I was working on school. So in my dissertation, it took me about 3.5 years while I was working full time. I also did a little bit of teaching on the side during it because that helped with the money too. So my dissertation, one of the things I struggled with, my topic for my dissertation was really studying the personal and professional experiences of downsizing managers in decision making, implementation, and managing in the aftermath. And I say that it like rolls right off my tongue because I wrote it, I typed it a million times. So that was what my dissertation was about. And I had the opportunity. I always say their interviews are gold to me. One of the reasons I struggled in my program was because I had trouble finding downsizing managers who have gone through downsizing that were willing to talk about it. It's kind of a hard thing. I mean, even for somebody who has been downsized or laid off, that's really hard. So I ended up, my mentor and I talked more and more, and we found what was the avenue where I could find some of these individuals. And I found 14 of them. They were across different industries, different ages, different ethnicities, different perceptions, tenure. Like, it was an amazing group of individuals. Like, I couldn't have asked for better. So there were 14 of them, and I did semi-structured interviews. It was all qualitative research, which makes sense for me because that creativity, writing, being able to do that versus kind of playing with the numbers and all the analytical stuff. So I did my research and wrapped up, and I actually defended my dissertation in January of 2013. I think it was like January 9th, maybe. January of 2013, I defended my dissertation. My husband and I took our second ever vacation. We got married in 98. Our second ever vacation to Long Beach, California, so I could walk in the graduation. We had a wonderful time out there. We were on the go all the time. That might have been the only issue with that trip, not taking enough time to rest. We stayed on the Queen Mary for a night, got to take like haunted tours. We just had a blast on that trip. So it was really, really good. So for my formal journey, that my husband asked me soon after I graduated, "What do you want to do from here?" And with all sincerity and honesty, I looked up at him at the table and I said, "I just want to go back to school." And he was like, "You're out of your freaking mind. You don't have money to do that. You don't have the time to do that. And are you just going to go to school for the rest of your life?" Like, and I was like, it was the structure, the stability, the curriculum, all of that. And he's like, "I don't think that's a good idea. I think you need to take a different direction." And so I was like, okay. So 2013, I actually was in some leadership roles around that time in my work. I was still at Discover. I had some health issues soon after graduation. I had a lot of depression. It felt like I had reached a really, really huge goal, and I expected for opportunities to open up the very next day, and there was nobody waiting at the door. So that was a huge letdown for myself. I was very, very depressed. I had thyroid issues. I found out that I had a ton of cysts on my thyroid. I learned a lot about that. Ended up getting part of my thyroid taken out. That was the first time I really had any major health issues that I can think of. So I asked at work. I love to develop people and to manage and work with people. I wasn't in an area that I was passionate about. I didn't wake up and be excited ever to go in about the topic we were working on. I think in the very beginning it was a short high. And so I went on from there and I took an individual contributor role. And I learned a lot about myself and about other people during that time frame. I did hire a coach to help me to process some of the things that I went through during that time frame and to handle those. And then I was able to move on. I will tell you from there, I did a lot at Discover during those next few years after I graduated, and got to explore and got even more into learning and development within the operations side of the business. And then also, even not too long ago, into the product area of the business and payments. A lot of opportunity to be innovative, flexible, to try new things, to pilot things, to be part of industry associations. Just it was amazing. And those are things that I know that I would not have if I was in some kind of formal role. I think I would have pieces of them, but not as much freedom to make the decisions or make the recommendations and things like that to go forward. In 2018, I had found, or it was actually 2017, I had found out that Discover had changed their tuition reimbursement, tuition assistance policy. I think it was within the year before that or so. And they were now covering up to 90% of programs through certain schools, certain programs, up to a cap, depending on if it was undergraduate or graduate. So I went back to my husband and I said, "Hey, when I was going through my PhD, I found out about this thing called industrial organizational psychology. And I really want to learn more about it." Um, I was too late in my program in my PhD when I learned about it to switch. It just didn't make sense. So I said, I can go and pay $170 per course and get it done in 18 months. And I was so excited, and I was just like, that structure, that stability, that learning, that community, all of that. So I started into the program in 2018. It was February 2018, and finished that in September of 2019. It was an amazing program. During that same time, I was still teaching quite a bit at Columbus State Community College. I had taught there for about 5 years total, on and off. Well, it was 5 years on. Probably it was there a little over 6 years completely. And I had asked the lead of the program at the very end if I said I saw that there was a position open could we talk about that? I've been teaching at this community college. I would love to get into a graduate. I have my PhD, all that kind of stuff. And at the time, she had just hired somebody, and she said, I'm really sorry. I don't even know if she apologized. She didn't have to if she did. But she had just hired somebody. So I said, do me a favor, keep my name, keep my resume or my CV. Let me know if anything comes up in the future, because I knew the program was growing. I didn't realize when I was even in the program that it was just starting out. So she had given me a call in early 2020, and I got hired, and I was scheduled to start my first class in June of 2020 to teach. And the one thing I was super excited about in that role is that I was able to teach some of the, I got a mix really, but I'm teaching some of the higher level classes, which I didn't get to do at Columbus State. I was always at the Management 101, Organizational Communications 100, like those kinds of levels. So I'm able to teach a variety of courses within the Masters of Industrial Organizational Psychology program. I still do that adjunct. I've always been an adjunct, and I work full time at Discover. I had just moved over in November of 2021 to our business technology area, and this is the first time I ever left payments. So being in payments for 25 and a half years, and then I moved to a completely different area of the business. It has been amazing. There have been so many opportunities to learn, to grow, to pilot, experiment, try things, consider things that you may not have thought of before. It's absolutely not a place where you hear, it's not a place where you hear people say, that's the way we've always done it. We come in, we kind of rock things and kind of figure out, is there a better way to do it? Is there a more efficient way? Is there a smarter way? And helping people to learn. And it's all about learning strategy. So this is the first time in my career at Discover and my corporate career that I've been 100% focused on learning. And I had told my boss not too long ago, it's really crazy to be able to go into databases or Google Scholar or wherever I can find, peer-reviewed, edited, or peer-reviewed different research on topics and look at it and use it in my work. And it's just like, it has me so giddy. And being able to use things associated with the industry, the learning and development industry, and bringing that in and being able to do those within work related terms. So I'm super excited at where I am today. I launched Upskill University, which I call Upskill U now. I officially launched that in March of 2021. I had done some things prior to that on the side related to career services. So I did a lot related to resume writing, and I've helped people, dozens and dozens of people with their resumes and writing those and tweaking them and helping them to find a job or get the confidence as to what kind of jobs they could find or getting ready for the interviews. I even had the opportunity, thanks to a friend from high school, to go in and help staff at a school where they were closing down the school. And so I was able to help them with the career services, with workshops, with resume one-on-ones, things like that. So I had a passion. I knew, in addition to the teaching and the work, which some people think that's crazy, but one thing I can confirm for you is I've learned more and more about my human design, which for me is a manifesting generator. And if you want to know more about that, I can hook you up. Just leave a comment and I'll connect you with Nicole Garantano. So I learned more about my human design, and that's the way that I'm built, and that's the way that I am. And I'm not apologizing for it anymore. I have felt weird in the past, or even when my husband would go to tell people I'm working on my PhD, and I'm like, don't, keep quiet about that. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of a lot of things, afraid of failure. Nowadays, I'm more afraid of success, because I feel like there are things that are just going to take off and do really well. So Upskill U was launched in March of 2021. So we were celebrated just about a week or so ago from the time this is being recorded, the 1-year anniversary of Upskill U. There are a lot of amazing things on the horizon. This podcast is just one piece of a bigger puzzle that I would not say I have all the pieces together yet. I am still putting those together. I have joined communities of amazing women entrepreneurs. I have amazing coaches and mentors and cheerleaders and support on my side. And I'm super, super excited at what's to come. So please stay tuned, and I'll share more as I have more on my own learning journey. I say that I was not allowed to go back to school after I finished that last stint with the master's, so I started my own university, which is Upskill U. But the purpose of Upskill U is really to help individuals to upskill personally and professionally. And the way that I'm looking to do that is building a community and the platform where people can come in and have access to courses, to groups, to services, to the learning and the knowledge and the information and insights for them to elevate and to be a better person, to learn and grow and develop and help other people and share with other people. But I can't do that alone. So one of the big things that I have this year for Upskill U is really reaching out to fellow entrepreneurs, coaches, small business owners, and looking to see how we can partner together, how I can be an affiliate for the different programs that they have, how we can partner and collaborate and do some amazing things so that people are aware of what they are putting out into this world and what's available to them, and that they have really one location. It's a one-stop shop to come here, and whatever skill you want to improve upon, you're going to be able to find it. So this, even though we're at the 1 year mark and we're still really young, we're going to take off, and I feel like it's going to be big. So I'm super, super excited, and I love to help other people. And as you can tell, hopefully from me explaining my learning journey to you, I'm super, super passionate about learning. And sometimes you don't always find, here's the thing, go do it, and you're done. You have to kind of figure it out as you go. I love to be able to help people in figuring out, what does that plan look like? How do we put that plan into place? How do we put that into action? How do we celebrate it? How do we get support on it? So those are just some of the pieces for Upskill U that I'm really, really stoked about. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I've probably talked way longer than I should have. But again, I am super excited for what's coming with Through the Lens of Learning podcast, with Upskill University, for all the things that I have going on. And I'm really, really looking forward to helping individuals to upskill and to find the opportunities that they need to elevate themselves and be better, and to be excited and to celebrate. So with that, I will go ahead and sign off. Thank you again for listening. And wherever you are listening to this, make sure that you subscribe. So if you're listening to it as audio for podcast, it's available through Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, any other podcast platform that you can find. So make sure you subscribe on any of those channels. It also is available in video format on my YouTube channel. So look up Upskill U, the letter U, and you'll be able to subscribe to the YouTube channel and get notifications there as well. With that, I thank you. If you do know somebody who would be a great guest to talk about their learning journey, whether it's formal or informal learning or a blend of that, or they have an area that they're passionate, that they've learned about, that they're learning about, and they want to talk about and share that with the world, please direct them to the website Upskill, Upskill University.com. /vodcast, VODCAST. There is actually a link there for a form that they can complete and send me the information that they are interested in talking about, sending me the information about themselves. And within a week or two, I'll be able to turn that around, see if that seems like a right fit for the podcast, in the next few months in this year, and get them on the calendar if that does feel like the right fit. So with that, thank you again. I hope you have an amazing day, and thank you for listening. Bye. This podcast is brought to you by Upskill University. You can find more information about how to become part of the Upskill community for free, this and other episodes of the Through the Lens of Learning podcast, and more on the website at www.upskilluniversity.com. Thanks again for listening, and have an awesome day.